the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to the Motivational Minute. My name is Tanya Morris, and I am a proud member of Dare to Imagine Church. Will you do me a favor? Will you text 10 people? Will you message 10 people and tell them that the Motivational Minute is on right now with a word to inspire and to encourage you for the day? I am so happy to be here, and I was thinking about our icon, our legend, Representative John Lewis, who's being laid to rest on today. And I wanted to share a quote with him as we prepare for this minute. And he said, if you see something that is not right, that is not fair, that is not just, you have a moral obligation to do something about it. And that's what I want to talk to you today about. I want to talk really about what it means to take a stand. And one of the most prolific stories that we hear about standing is found in the book of 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter, and it's the story of David and Goliath. David, his brothers have gone down to the battle, and David decides that he's going to go down and see what's going on. He's sent with a meal, and it says in verse number 28 of the story, now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was aroused against David, and he said, why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. But I like David's response to his big brother, because he says to him, what have I done now? Is there not a cause? And when you think about taking a stand, and this is why I love this response so much, David says, is there not a cause? Meaning, is there not a reason? Is there not a purpose for me coming down here? Is there not a reason? Is there not a purpose? Isn't there something going on that warrants all of our attention, that warrants all of us to get involved? Is there not a cause? And so next he says, he turns to him and he says, and these people answered him, and now when the words which David spoke were heard, they reported them to Saul. So they go back and they tell Saul, listen, this kid's down here talk about, is there not a cause? And he wants to get involved in the battle. And so David goes back and he goes and he talks to Saul. In verse 38, it says that Saul clothed David with his armor and put a bronze helmet on his head. He also clothed him with a coal of mail. And he begins to really put David in armor to be able to go to battle. And that's one point that I want to make, because David goes on to tell Saul that this isn't going to work for him. And so when you begin to take a stand, when you decide to take a stand, you have to use what works for you. You have to use the tools and the gifts that God has given to you. See, what works for someone else doesn't work for Tanya. What works for another brother may not work for you. What works for your sister or your family member, it may not work for you when it comes time to take a stand, when it comes time to be used of the Lord. So you have to use what works for you. And so it says in verse 39 that David fastened his sword to his armor, and he tried to walk. He tried to use this thing, and he took them off, and he took the staff off, and he chose for himself. This is key. He chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in the shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. So David knew, he said that wasn't going to work for him, but he got what he knew would work for him. And he says at the battle, and I'm coming to a close, it's a motivational minute. He says at the battle, he says, I come to you in the name of the Lord. See, when you take a stand for what's right, when you take a stand for what's fair and what's just, as our dear brother John Lewis did for the majority of his life, when you take a stand for what's right, I assure you, I guarantee you that God will stand with you. He will stand for you in the midst of your trouble. That's our motivational minute for today. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms, Dare to Imagine Church. You can visit our website, d2ic.org. And always and forever remember, life is better when you dare to imagine.